So one of the first things I'm going to be dealing with is food miles. It stands to reason that the more miles a product has to travel from origin to plate, the more carbon is produced because of the transport and the processing and everything else. There's kind of two conflicting viewpoints on this. You've got some people who believe that consumer power is king, and that if everybody decided to buy from the country that they are in, so in my case I'll be buying British, that it would have a massive impact on our carbon emissions. And there are other people who believe that even if that happened, it would still be a drop in the ocean compared to our other sources of carbon emissions. So it would stand to reason, judging by that sort of the further things have to travel, the more carbon is produced. In terms of air freighting, I believe a standard figure is 52 kilos per air mile. Might be wrong on that one. But yeah, the point is, it's a kilo of carbon dioxide produced from an air mile. A kilo of carbon, if you were going to put it in gaseous form, if you sort of stand up, it would basically be you. It's about the same size as you. If you're an average sort of height and average sort of weight, that sort of thing. It'd be about the same size as you, plus a tiny bit of air around you. Which is kind of scary, actually. 52 individuals worth of carbon for 1 air mile. Anyway, that's something to be discussed later on. The first thing I've done is actually gone through my cupboards, and I was a little bit shocked, actually. Not because I was surprised about how far things had come. I was surprised that I hadn't even considered it before. So one of the things that I tend to pick up daily are yogurts, just to go in lunch boxes, that sort of thing. Imported from Germany. Popcorn. I don't buy this very often. I think we've had this basically since we moved in about 3 months ago. Probably bought it around then anyway. And this comes from produced in Spain. Can you see? I think you can see. Produced in Spain. Not fantastic so far. Actually, kind of it amuses me that it's produced in Spain and it's got the whole American vibe thing going on. But that's a whole other argument about branding. Anyway, stuff like tea. Peppermint tea, I go through buckets of this. It's really good. And then I know my parents go through a lot of sort of Yorkshire tea. Both. Bear with me. Hold on. Blended and packed with pride in the UK from imported ingredients. Doesn't even tell you where it's from. Now, I'm not 100% sure on the producers of peppermint tea. But if I'm going by sort of normal breakfast tea standards, we can sort of fairly easily assume that it's from India or China, one of the big tea producers. Which again, thousands and thousands of miles, thousands of kilos of carbon, 50 kilos of carbon per mile. It all adds up to quite a lot, actually, especially if you're considering the bulk of people drink breakfast tea, especially in Britain, national drink. Just a couple of other things that I've got. Couscous. We use it as an alternative to rice and pasta when we get bored. We still go through quite a lot of it. Semolina, I think. So it's made with normal wheat. It's from Durham wheat. Produce of France. So nothing in my cupboard yet has come from Britain. And I feel both slightly concerned and slightly guilty now, actually. Looking at the spice cupboard actually is really interesting. oregano. It's a 14, well, it was a 14 gram. There's not a lot of it left. A 14-gram box of oregano. Quite a fairly big supermarket. Produce of more than one country. I'll just let that hang there for a second. You know, it's one ingredient. I'm assuming that it comes from sort of more than one country's due to demand. So one country can't sort of supply all the demand for this consumer, so they have to sort of bring another one and blend the two together. It's just resource intensive. You know, it doesn't even say where it's from. I would assume it's sort of Greece or Italy or something like that, but not great. I guarantee you, every single person has got pepper. This is Tellicherry, India. Anyway, it's from India. Again with the miles and the carbon and the everything, it's not fantastic. Chickpeas, I go through loads of chickpeas just because, you know, 25 a day. They are good for you. I'm not going to argue with that. It says packed in the UK. It doesn't say where the chickpeas actually come from. I did look this up at one point. And most chickpeas seem to come from India, places like India, Ethiopia, Iran, you know. I think Ethiopia is the 5th biggest producer of chickpeas. Might be wrong on that one, but I'm pretty sure that was the stats that I got. Point is, that's again thousands of miles and thousands of kilos of carbon for a tin of chickpeas. What else have I got? Oh yeah, tin tomatoes. I go through loads of these again because they're cheap and cheerful and really good for you. Produced and packed in Italy. So kind of taking a bit of a tour through Europe in my kitchen cupboards. Rice, you know, everybody's got it in their cupboards. Everybody eats, well, most people eat it. It's cheap. It's a great starch. I'll find where it came from. Milled and packaged in the UK from an imported ingredient. Again, we can assume India, China, somewhere like that. It's not great. It's not looking good. You know, if I were to count up the air miles just in the things that I've kind of shown you now, it would be kind of scary. And yes, things go across in bulk, and they go across. They're transported in thousands and thousands of tins or thousands and thousands of kilos of this, whatever. But still, the fact that we import so much of our food, and the fact that we don't even think about it. I never used to think about it. But you sort of walk into a supermarket, you go, oh, spag bowl, oregano, tin of tomatoes, tomato paste, which I'm pretty sure the ones that we buy, they come from Spain. I think it's Spain or Italy, one of the two. Point is, it's not Britain, and we produce some fantastic tomatoes. You know, we have some brilliant produce. We just don't use it because it's convenience. Again, this whole thing is convenience. So, I don't know, where do you stand? I'm not a scientist. Very much an amateur environmental enthusiast. I mean, it is very much a wake-up call to realise that most of the food that we consume is imported, and obviously massively reducing how much we import will obviously have knock-on effects for often developing economies, such as India, China, Ethiopia. And at what point do we put people's livelihoods above the environment? I think there was a stat out that we're the biggest importer of tea in the world. Now, for quite a small island, that's kind of impressive. And it's great, especially when it's been done, fair trade. There you go, Rainforest Alliance certified. When it's been done ethically, it's great. But you do have to consider how much of an environmental impact the logistics and the transport and the production costs are on the things that we buy. And we need to make intelligent decisions about what we're buying and about what we're consuming and about where it's coming from. Food miles. Not the most, well, it's not the most riveting subject, but it's something to think about. It's something to start with. I will be looking at buying more British. It won't necessarily be in convenient packaging. I won't necessarily be able to get, the exotic ingredients that I want and that I'll use daily. What I will be able to say is that, my carbon emissions from what I'm consuming, my individual carbon footprint will have dropped. And I will be supporting the local economy here. Local producers. Is it worth doing? Do you know what? It's a start. It's somewhere to start. And for someone who has gone from, in the last couple of weeks, not really thinking about it, to someone who's determined to make some changes, it is somewhere to start. So what are we going to do next? Next week is probably going to be vegetarian week. I'll be looking at different diets, to see who, or which one rather, is theoretically the most environmentally friendly. Three I've had suggested to me are vegetarian, vegan, paleo. I am not looking forward to the vegan. I like milk. I'll give it a go. But it'll be interesting to see what comes out. It'll be very interesting to see what comes out. I think that'll be me signing off for tonight then. Just sort of talk about food miles, how many hidden food miles there are in your kitchen cupboard. Have a look. It might surprise you. Might shock you. In my case, it's made me want to change how I buy and what I buy and who I buy it from. But that's entirely a decision for you to make in your own home.